tell a different story, because, what's your name, Emma?
Yeah.
Emma has a book on her. Do they all have the book, or just you, Emma?
No, yeah, they've been sharing it from the library.
Emma has a book on her desk which has a great story in it. And this young man, what's your name, Tyler?
Yeah.
You talked about religion. So here's a story that's a little bit about religion, and it has a little bit of humor in it. And we'll see what you think of it. It's called The Debate in Sign Language. Does anybody know sign language? Oh, good. Okay. Well, this sign language is a little bit different because it's a long time ago. Now, some of you may know that there have been many, many times and many, many places where Jews were kicked out of the country. So there was a country a long time ago where there was a king, and he didn't want any of the Jews in the country. But he didn't want to look like he was just an old meanie. So he didn't want the Jews in, but he decided he'd do it in a different way. So he told everybody in the whole town and the whole country that he was going to challenge the Jewish people to a debate in sign language. And he would ask them 3 questions. And they had to get each question right. If they got any one of those 3 questions wrong, the Jews would be banished from the country. So, over in the Jewish community, everybody was all up in arms. They didn't know what to do. They all went to the synagogue. They talked to the rabbi. Now you all know what a rabbi is now, right?
Yes.
From Stealing Smells. A rabbi is the head of the Jewish community. He's like a priest is in Catholic, right?
Yeah.
So the rabbi is pretty much the biggest man in the Jewish community. So they all go to the rabbi. Rabbi, what do we do? What do we do? Does anybody know sign language? And they're all standing there, and the rabbi says, I don't know what to do. Who can help? Anybody that can help, step forward. And that's when everybody in the whole synagogue took one step back. Everybody except Yankel, the chicken seller. He was standing there daydreaming, thinking about something else, and all of a sudden he was standing there by himself. And the rabbi said, oh, Yankel, you will help us. You'll help us with the sign language debate, and you'll win our freedom. And Yankel was standing there, and he said, okay. Because he didn't really know much. He's just a little chicken seller. So now it came the day to have the debate in sign language. And there in the courtyard, there was the king up on the platform, and there was Yankel. So the king reminded everybody that if they miss even one question, they will be banished. So a hush came over the crowd. And then the king stood there and looked Yankel right in the eyes, and he went, and Yankel put his fist up to the sky, just like that. And the king looked at Yankel and he said, that's right. Ooh, there was murmuring in the crowd because Yankel got the first question right. And then the king put 2 fingers up like that, and Yankel put 1 finger up like that. And the king stepped back, and his face turned white, and he said, that's right. Now there were 2 questions out of 3 that they answered right. Now next the king reached in his pocket, and he took out and unwrapped a piece of old moldy cheese, crumbly moldy cheese. The uncle reached in his pocket and he pulled out a hard-boiled egg. The king's eyes opened up wide. That is correct, he said. And another hush came over the crowd. Yankel had all 3 questions right. The Jews could now stay. Well, Yankel went back to the synagogue, and of course in the court inside the castle, everyone gathered around the king. Well, what happened? What did you say? What did Yankel say? What were the questions? What were the answers? Well, said the king, I can't believe that little chicken man, Yankel, that he got all the questions right. Well, first I put my hand up with my 5 fingers spread out. That signified that the Jewish religion, the Jewish faith was spread out all over the country, not united at all. Yankel put his fist up. He said that the Jews were all united in one, all together and strong. And he was right. Then I put up 2 fingers, signifying that there were 2 gods, one in heaven and a king, me, here on earth. Yankel put up 1 finger, signifying that there was only one God in heaven, and he was right. Then I took out a piece of old moldy cheese to signify that the Jewish faith was crumbling and old and had no meaning anymore. Yankel took out a hard-boiled egg that symbolized spring and birth and new life, and he was right. So the Jews can stay. Now, what do you think was happening over in the synagogue with all the Jewish people? And they were standing around and they said to Yankel, "Oh, what happened? What did the king ask you? What did he say?" Yankel said, "Well, he put his hand up. I thought he was going to hit me in the face. I put my fist up to show him I meant business." He put 2 fingers out. I thought he was going to poke me in the eye, so I put up 1 finger to stop him. He took out his lunch, I took out my lunch, and then he said the Jews can stay, and that was it. That's the story of the sign language debate. Did you like that? Now, that ever happens? Sometimes you say one thing, and your friend thinks you're saying something else?
Or your moms and dads say one thing, and you think they're saying something. Go.
We liked how the sign language. No, I messed up
Okay,
now.
we liked how in the sign language debate, how when they were debating, how
Right.
the king was talking more realistically, and then the chicken guy was all, "I took out my lunch."
Yeah, it was
Yeah, it was
really
kind of funny.
The chicken guy?
Yeah,
So the king brought out, what did you remember what the king brought out?
he brought out his like what he took out of his pocket.
Yeah.
He brought out moldy cheese.
And what did the chicken guy bring out?
Boiled it.
Boil.
And what did the chicken guy think the king was doing?
Pulling
Taking
out
out
his
his
lunch.
What mine and Alex's favorite part was when they did the sign language debate, because when the chicken man, he went up to the rest of the Jewish people. They asked him what he did, and the king went like this, and he said, "Well, I thought he was gonna poke my eye, so I went like that to stop him." And then he thought that when the king put up 5 fingers, he thought he was going to hit him, so he put up a fist to stop him. And then when the king pulled out the moldy cheese, he thought it was his lunch, so the chicken man pulled out his lunch, and so yeah, that's
Well,
what.
I didn't know the chicken guy would know any sign language. So I was like, I don't think he'll win.
Yeah.
And he'll be banished.
That the stories I like that Mark told me is that at the beginning of his story, the rabbi said, "You know sign language," and everybody took 1 step back. But the chicken man, he was just dazing off like like he didn't care. Now it's funny.
I think the chicken man's wife is the chicken.
I like the word chicken man. I think that's funny. That makes me laugh. Thank you, boys.